All right, today we're heading to the rugged, beautiful west coast of the Scottish Highlands. We're going to explore a small but incredibly important port town called Mallaig. Now, this place is fascinating because it's a place of contradictions. It's the end of the line on the mainland, but it's also the very start of countless adventures out to the islands. So let's dive in and find out what makes this Highland port so special.
To really get a feel for Mallaig, you first have to understand the journey to get there. And this quote, wow, it just captures that feeling perfectly. You're traveling on the West Highland Line, a train journey so stunning, people say it's one of the best in the world. This epic approach is the perfect setup for arriving in a town that honestly feels like it's perched right at the edge of the world.
So, let's start with that first identity of Mallaig. It's a destination. It's a terminus. This is literally where the road and the railway stop, and the massive, wide open expanse of the Atlantic Ocean begins. And this right here perfectly sums up the town's split personality. On one hand, yeah, it's the end of the road. It's the final stop for the famous A830, the road to the Isles, and that iconic West Highland Railway. But then you look at the other side of the coin, and it's this bustling gateway, the main ferry port connecting the mainland to the Isle of Skye, the small isles, and even further. It's this tension, this pull between being an end and a beginning that really defines Mallaig. But Mallaig wasn't always this busy hub, not at all. In fact, its origins are actually pretty recent and surprisingly humble. So let's rewind a bit and see how this whole thing got started.
Can you believe it? Less than 200 years ago, this whole area was basically just a single farmstead. The village as we know it was actually a planned community. It was a deliberate creation by the local landowner, Lord Lovett. He saw the potential in the sea and basically encouraged his tenants to move from inland areas to this rugged coast and build a new life based around fishing.
And at first, wow, that plan really took off. The population just exploded, from only 24 people to 134 in just 10 years. But life here was tough, really precarious. The fishermen were in small boats, totally dependent on the unpredictable herring. And then, disaster struck. In 1881, a massive storm wiped out most of the fishing fleet. By 1891, the population was shrinking. The whole experiment was in crisis. It needed a revolution.
And boy, did a revolution come. It arrived in the form of steam and steel. This next chapter is, without a doubt, the single most important event in Mallaig's history. It's what secured its future and really defined what this place was all about for the next 100 years.
In 1901, everything changed. The West Highland Line was extended right to the edge of the harbour. All of a sudden, this tiny, remote village was plugged directly into the industrial heart of Scotland, and from there to the huge markets of the UK and Europe. Fish could be landed in Mallaig and be on its way south at incredible speed. It was a total, absolute game changer.
And the economic impact? It was immediate and just staggering. I mean, look at this number. By 1914, just a little over a decade after the railway showed up, the value of fish landed here shot up to over £60,000. That was an immense amount of money back then. The railway didn't just help the fishing industry. It put it into hyperdrive.
This quote, it just gives you such a clear, vivid picture of what the town must have been like in those boom years. It wasn't just a fishing port, it was the fishing port. You can just imagine it, the air thick with the smell of salt and smoke from the kippering sheds, the harbor just a constant hive of activity.
And this was the peak. Think about it. For a time in the mid-20th century, this little village on the far edge of Scotland held the title of the busiest herring port in all of Europe. Huge catches were landed, processed, and shipped out by train, truck, and boat to places as far away as Denmark and Holland.
But you know how these stories go. Booms don't last forever. The story of Mallaig in the later part of the 20th century is really one of adaptation, of resilience in the face of some pretty enormous challenges.
So after the boom of the 60s came the bust of the 70s. The herring stocks, which had been overfished for years, just collapsed. At the same time, the railway line itself was threatened with closure, and to top it all off, new, bigger car ferries started using different routes, bypassing Mallaig completely. It was just a perfect storm that threatened the town's very existence.
So how on earth did Mallaig survive all that? Well, it adapted, it pivoted. Today, if you walk along that harbour, you won't see barrels of herring. Instead, you'll see stacks of creels and nets for a different kind of prize. The main catch now is prawns, langostinos, and other shellfish, and the port is thriving once again by landing huge amounts of this really valuable catch.
And this is a really crucial point.
Mallaig is not a tourist town that just looks like a fishing port. It is a fishing port. It's the real deal, an authentic working community. I mean, they built a whole new outer harbor in 1998. That's proof of its commitment to its commercial roots. The connection to the sea here is just as real and just as vital as it was 100 years ago.
Okay, so we've covered Mallaig, the fishing port. But that's only half the story, isn't it? Let's turn to its other major identity. Mallaig, the vital transport hub, the true gateway to the Isles.
Just take a look at this list. From Mallaig, you can set sail for some of Scotland's most beautiful and remote places. You've got the short, really popular crossing over to Armadale on the incredible Isle of Skye. You have the lifeline services to the aptly named Small Isles, Room, Ig, Muck, and Canna, and you've even got long-haul ferries to go all the way out to the Outer Hebrides. It's an absolutely critical junction for anyone exploring this part of the world.
And this might be its most unique role of all. Mallaig provides the only regular access to the village of Inverie on the Knoydart Peninsula. Now, Knoydart is known as Britain's last wilderness, and Inverie is famous for having 0 roads connecting it to the rest of the country. If you want to get there, your journey starts right here on a boat from Mallaig Harbour.
So we've explored the history, the dual identity of Mallaig. Now let's switch gears and look at it from a different angle. What's it actually like to visit? What should you do? What should you experience if you find yourself at the end of the line?
So let's try and answer that. What is the essence of a trip to Mallaig? What does it really feel like? Well, I think it's a mix. It's a combination of iconic journeys, a unique local character, some incredible food, and a really deep connection to the wild landscape all around you.
Here's a quick guide to doing it right. First, the arrival. You just have to ride the Jacobite steam train. Yep, the one made famous as the Hogwarts Express across the Glencafinnan Viaduct. It's an unforgettable way to get here. Second, just explore the village itself. It's small but packed with character. Third, and this is a must, you have to taste the ocean. This is the place for some of the freshest seafood in Scotland. And finally, get out on the water. Take a wildlife cruise and look for seals sunbathing on the rocks, or maybe even spot some porpoises and dolphins.
And that village vibe I was talking about? It's just wonderfully unique. You can wander into a shop called The Raven, the Cat, and the Witch's Hat and literally meet the local witch who told a visitor she hand makes half of everything in her store. It's these personal, quirky little encounters that really make the place stick with you.
Okay, now about that seafood. You are seriously spoiled for choice. If you want a high-end experience, there's the Cornerstone Restaurant. It's an award-winning spot, and the chef, Cameron, was even a quarter-finalist on MasterChef. For something more traditional and comforting, pop into the Tea Garden Cafe for a bowl of Cullen skink. That's a classic Scottish smoked haddock soup. Or, for the true harbor experience, just grab some freshly battered haddock and chips from a local takeaway and eat it right there by the water. You can't beat it.
And so we end right where we began, with that central paradox of Mallaig. Is it a final destination, a place to just stop and soak in the atmosphere at the very edge of the mainland? Or is it a launch pad, the start of an even greater journey, out to the wild isles that are just waiting across the water? The beautiful truth about Mallaig, of course, is that it's both.